going on? Nero Angelo here on MUHLARKEY with Markie, man.
What's good, man? What's good?
Glad to finally have you on the show.
Yes.
Had you booked, man. We have our little run-in and gun-ins, and bam, now
hey,
look at us. Look at us, man. What a blessing. One of the coldest lyricists in Southern Evansville, Indiana right now, you know. Choose have your own, but you know, when you hear what comes out the man's mouth, you have no choice but to put him up there when it comes to the lyricists.
Hey, it's all love, bro.
You know, let's go ahead and get this kicked off the right way. First question I want to ask you: when you start taking this rap stuff serious?
Man, okay, so I for real started in music. I always say 2010, just because that was when I actually tried to like put out my first project and really do stuff. Like that summer of 2009 was when I kind of got my feet wet because I was doing a lot of like freestyling, getting in ciphers and stuff like that. And then, like, actually sitting down, writing notes for real, like, May 2010. May of 2010. That's one of the main dates that I always remember just because of that. Because I was like, May 7th was the first mixtape I put out.
May 7th, the first mixtape you put out of 2010, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, what has changed in the industry or in the tools that you use in the industry since then?
Oh, a lot. At least for me, a lot, because I was like on bare bones. I was recording stuff off of like a laptop. You know what I mean? Like no Pro Tools, no other stuff. I had like Audacity, like bare bones. So from there on, I learned to do my own stuff. Saved up some money, got me a mic, started working with different programs, started learning how to make my own beats and everything like that. So it's just been a slow build since then. But I will say, what's changed to me, I think that around that time was when the shift started happening where, you know, MySpace is falling off, Facebook started blowing up, and people started doing more marketing online versus like, oh, hey, tell the homies I got a mixtape, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
It became more widespread. And like, our generation, we're just now getting a hold of these tools. We was getting a hold of those tools at that time, and we're only just now really learning how to maximize that. But like the kids that came up like directly after us, like our little brothers, our little sisters, our little cousins, they got it like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You get these little, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. All they need is a mic, a camera, and a Twitter post, and they already in outer space.
Right, and then that's also on the same side of that is, you know, when you graduate high school, or when your parents graduate high school, furthermore, right, everything your parents' high school graduation, you learned that in elementary school.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's nothing. Yeah. It's a reason why in middle school they sitting there with their hand at having a headache at the table too.
Right.
It's the first time they seen this too.
Right.
And y'all both wide eyed, so
that's
I do feel you with that big time, man.
Oh yeah.
Big time. And just touching on that 2010, how did you get your feet wet? What made you get your feet wet in 2009, the year prior to that?
Really just, like I was saying, like ciphers and stuff. Like actually just chilling with the homies and just like deciding to just, you know, man, I'm going to try this. You know, because there's always somebody in a group or whatever. Like we be at the Boys and Girls Club, just be messing around.
First half?
Couple folks be sitting there. No, not the first half one, the newer one. It was the newer one. The one that's off of, is that off of Lincoln? I think
Bellmead.
Yeah, it's Bellmead. I always get those confused. But yeah, you know, we just be chilling, just be BSing or whatever, and all of a sudden somebody want to get into it. So, you know, we all jump in. You either in the crowd, you hyping everybody up or hyping your mans up, or you like, man, bump it. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say something, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I can't say exactly when, but it was just like, it was a progression. It was a progression. I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually try this. I'm going to actually try this. And then it's like, okay, people actually like it. All right, now I got to try to get serious and figure out how good I can get at this and how much I can do.
How was that for you, like not knowing if people was going to like it or just doing your craft for the simple state of craftsmanship?
Yeah.
And then you putting it out there and people were kind of like, hey, that was pretty good.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
It's wild. It's like the in-person reactions is dope. I remember, like, it's funny thinking about it now because, like, I put out my first project, that was 2010. That same day, I had friends hit me up and stuff because I put it out on the My uncle called me. That was the craziest one. And he named off one specific song that he liked, and he was like, I really like that one. You know? And this was like my Uncle Ricky. So he was the one, like, all my uncles kind of served a different purpose in my life. Like, he was the one that always hit me with, like, the cut and dry, no sugarcoat type truth. Like, we would sit down and have conversations. I could call him right now, we could have a conversation, and it's always an uncut conversation. It's never no, oh, I'm going to talk to you just because you were a kid, or I'm going to talk to you on this level. No, it was always an adult level with us.
So that's the next question I got to ask you then. Who influenced you the most out of your family?
It's kind of a combination. Like I said, it's for different reasons. Like, my granddaddy mainly just, like, that's the work ethic. His has always been the work ethic. This is a man who, from start to finish to now, has never really slowed down. This man's about to be 82 this year. And he's just one of those type of people, he got to keep moving. He got to keep moving. He got to work on this and work on that and work on that. And that's always been his mindset. He was one of the main ones that taught me about work ethic, about managing money, you know, always making sure that something's worth what it says it's worth, you know. My great-grandfather, that was my grandmother's father, he was another one that was like that. He always taught me about saving my money. He probably didn't even realize this at the time. Like, every Sunday, he come over to the church because he went over to New Hope, so he just crossed the street over and see us, and he dropped like a little 5 or 10 or something in my pocket and be like, hey, save your money, boy. And that was just always it, you know. So that got burned into my head, along with learning how to manage money, and always being like, okay, I always got to be conscious of what I have. I always got to be aware of what I have, and if I really want something, I got to make sure that I'm in the right position to get it, you know.
So how's that conscious state of mind that your forefathers dropped down to you helped you out in this rap game?
Honestly, in a lot of ways, one thing that I was always taught is 2 things actually. One was always wave at everybody, always be nice to everybody because you never know whose hands you're in. That was one that I got from my grandfather. And then another one was, never brag on yourself. Let other people do it for you because they do a better job of it. And that was one that I got from my great-grandfather. And honestly, especially that second one has manifested in a lot of ways, just in a way that there'll be people I don't even know, and they walking up and they're like, oh, what's good, Nero? Or what's up, man? Yo, your music is dope. I just peeped something. Because one of my friends told me about it, and I'm sitting there like, oh, thanks, you know? And it's also the concept of, be respectful to everybody. Always give respect to your fellow man because you really don't know who might hit you up with an opportunity, who might try to sow a seed into whatever you're trying to do, you know?
Right.
Like, I can say that I've honestly gotten opportunities and just, may as well just call them blessings from people, and it wasn't never nothing I asked for, it wasn't nothing I begged for, it wasn't nothing I was like, okay, I'm going to slide you this money and you going to help me out with this. They'd be like, no, man, hey, you want to come over here and do this? And I'd be like, okay, you know?
Right, all love. We're
Absolutely.
on a love-based platform, man. It's always great when you can make your art out of all love instead of, you know, malice and hate, where, you know, stuff like that, you know.
That stuff don't last. It doesn't. Like I've never understood the concept of hating just because, you can be mad at somebody and you can maybe take that frustration out and you might be happy for that moment. But once that moment's gone, you back to square one. Like, and all that time, and what you realize through life, at least what I learned, you spend all that time being mad and being angry, looking at somebody else like, how they make it this far, and how they do this, how they do that. You answer your own question because you sitting here looking when you should be really putting in the work. You seeing that as an inspiration to move forward.
Right, old age. Move your feet, lose your seat, man.
Absolutely.
Come on, man. Gotta keep you moving feet. Next question I'm gonna have to ask you, man. Who is your biggest influence in this rap game?
Man, one of them is an obscure one that most people ain't gonna get. It's this it was this guy named Charles Hamilton. He still does music somewhat to this day, but he was the first rapper that I knew that had a blog site. And this is like in 2007, when, you know, artist accessibility, like, it's easy to us now. Like, you can see Twitter and you can see all that stuff. Like, but like I said, you know, in 2007,
it was far-fetched.
It was crazy.
It was something new.
Yeah, and along type person that he would make a song about anything. Like he didn't really care. Like I guess just that carefree nature that he had, and the fact that he was different than a lot of people that I heard, really kind of sparked my mind to be like, man, I could totally do this. Because back then, you always felt like certain rappers had to fit a certain narrative. If you wanted to be in rap, you had to fit this narrative. You either had to have this type of life story, you had to sell this amount of drugs, you had to do this amount of stuff,
Rap sheet got to be this long, etc.
Right.
Silly stuff that you think to come with it when it's nothing about that.
Which when it comes off to being, just your average person, you just trying to get through life, you thinking, man, I can't do that. But the truth is, what that taught me was everybody got a story to tell. And everybody's story is important because it's different. Like, if you got everybody telling the same story, it gets boring. You know what I mean? If you get a story from different perspectives, then you're seeing it from maybe a set of eyes you won't recognize. You know what I'm saying?
Or a set of glasses you don't own.
Exactly. Like funny thing is, because I'm wearing my homie's album cover it just came out, and it's called The Money, The Job, The Dream. And it's basically kind of like that, where each set of songs is a different pathway that you can take. Like the money is the fast money, like the drug path. I think the job application was basically, just working a regular schmegular job, trying to do what you got to do. And then the dream is, of course, just pursuing what you want to pursue. And honestly, one of the songs that I'm actually featured on is called Dead End. Like, we talking about dead end jobs. Like, basically complaining about working, And that's about as real as it can get, because everybody got a crappy job story. Everybody.
Most got more than one.
Exactly.
It's just, I needed a check, man.
Right.
3 months turned into a year turned into 2, and I was like, all right.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all that pretty much happened,
Oh, yeah.
It'd be like that. We live in the state of Indiana where minimum wage is $7.25 in 2019.
Right.
So beggars technically can't be choosers.
Yes,
and rent is the same price across the board.
And going up.
Yeah. Whether you work at Simpsons or what? Toyota. Rent the same, bruh.
Yes, indeed.
And but to touch base on what you said about your rap influence, who else influenced you?
Music wise, like in terms of producing and stuff, because I make a lot of my own beats. Jay Dilla was one of the biggest ones early on, because like I was honestly sad that I heard about him towards the time of his death, and I like just started digging in and like listening to all different types of stuff, and like his whole vibe was just so dope. And then when I got older and I started looking like at interviews and even the way that he would conduct himself in the studio, where the homies just be off in the corner doing whatever, and he'll have a thought and be like, oh, I just thought of a beat, let me go. He'll go off into his corner, he start fixing it up and making something, and they still, jawing on and talking. And 5 minutes later, he like, yo, listen to this. They come over, they're like, when you make this? It's like, I just did. And just the fact that he had that persistence where he was in the hospital bed because he died from complications of, I think it was lupus and something else. So he was in the hospital bed with the drum machine just making stuff. Like, that's, to me, to have a dedication to your craft to the level of you're not even really worried about making money. You're not even really worried about being out there. You just want to make stuff for the sake of just making it. That was always beautiful to me.
So it sounds like with both of those artists, you both brought up artist freedom. Sounds like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Both artists had their time to be free, and they had their own free independent thought, restricted their own free independent sound.
Exactly.
And that's night and day difference from what's in the game now as far as sound and originality.
Oh yeah, most of it, a lot of things is pretty straightforward, and I feel like I used to have a more negative opinion of it, but like in thinking about it, I'm like, well, times is crazy now. People want feel good music, and that's what you got now. People want, when you're in an era where people just want to feel good for the moment, that's what's going to reflect in the music. The music reflects life. So if you're dealing with a whole, like back in the day, you had crack epidemic, drug culture. So that's like the 80s and the 90s. That caused that shift in music. So everybody's talking about what? Selling crack, drug epidemic, You get the recession in the 2000s. So what's everybody talking about? They want to ignore that. So they want to talk about flashing, getting money, doing all this other stuff. Now you got the drug culture coming back, and instead of it being the drug dealers, it's the drug users. So what you got now? I just want to be happy. I just want to do this and do that. But you're doing everything to try to escape from pain. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Coming back off a relapse.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all reflective of life.
Yeah, but you know, if the 70s, 80s, and 90s go like that, and then boom, 2000 you have a recession, I understand why you want some good music. The last 40, 50 years has been nothing but trauma and disorder.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And it's really, all reflective, man.
Yeah, and it run like that. Next question I got to ask you, man. Man, what made you fall in love with music, man?
Honestly, because music to me, besides just being universal, for me personally, it's it was therapy. It was another form of expression. Like, it was a way that I could express myself in a way that I never thought I could. Right. You know, I'm like, dang, people like when you're on a stage and you create something, like, and you performing something you created, you're presenting it to people, and you see that type of reaction, like, not to sound too deep or crazy, but like to me, I feel like that's kind of like what God felt like when He created the world. Like, you get to look at what your creation can do. You get to see other people appreciate something you might have made in your basement 2 weeks ago. You know, and to me, that's so crazy, and it's always a humbling experience.
Yeah. Speaking of, yeah.
I mean, like, straight up, but still, like, everything has its beginnings.
Yeah,
it's a humbling experience when people do truly appreciate what you make, because a lot of times you're not necessarily making it, at least when you're starting out, you ain't making it for them. Sometimes you're making it for you. You know, some songs I've made has just been ways for me to get out whatever frustrations or whatever stuff was going on.
Most things you better do for you, because if you end up doing something for somebody else that you don't like to do, right, you won't be doing it for too long.
No, or at least you'll just be complacent and unhappy.
And who wants to do something when they're unhappy?
Exactly.
Not a lot of people at all, but that's true with complacent. Nobody wants to be complacent and unhappy, especially when they're doing anything with the rap, man.
There's too much time and too much life and too many opportunities to sit there and just be mad.
So what type of opportunities have you like, really taken a hold of with a few big occasions you gotten in this?
Man, actually there's one coming up that I talked to some guys that was over at the the Arts Council building over on Main, and you know, I just kind of shot my shot because I think it was me, Brandon Gabriel, Flinny, who was actually on here the other time, Dakar, Jay Rivers, it was a bunch of us. I know maybe somebody else. And DB. We was all invited to do a show on the rooftop by Dakar. You know, Dakar Baker, shout out to him. He had set up, he wanted to do like a combination of just like a band playing behind art, like learning our tracks and us like performing it like that. So that translated over into me actually being able to communicate with some of these people and being like, okay, I want to try and do like, you know, maybe a set of shows like once a month or whatever. And so the first of that is going to be on February 21st.
Okay.
So, you know, and it's an opportunity. I don't know where we going to go with it, you know.
Where we going to be at February 21st, man?
It's going to be on, I have to get you the address, but it's going to be at the Arts Council building on Main Street. Okay. I believe it's 212 Main. Don't quote me. But and there's gonna be some dope artists. It's gonna be, well, of course, me, my homie Julian Washington. He's a comedian. He's gonna be hosting it because it's kind of the idea that me and him came up with even a year ago, and this is kind of a continuation of it. Mickey Cake's gonna be on there. Trip Crowley, my homie Deshaun, and Sonny Touré. I've been trying to get him on something, man. Okay. Dude's mad though.
Yeah, it's definitely something we all need to look out for, and everybody just you know, keep spreading everybody out there, keep pushing everybody out there. And like I said, man, this cat right here works hard.
I try, man.
His showmanship is up there. He's always on somebody's stage, and it's like you don't see it, but it's one of those where you click the link and you see it like, where is he at this time? Like, bro, have they kicked you out of here yet? Like, no, he's constantly working, and it's a beautiful thing to see when you see somebody work on their craft.
I appreciate that.
Seriously, you know, and then when you was walking around high school, did you see yourself even doing this? And even, you know, you had a little niche for music then,
right?
But did you see the balloon? Even like, man,
right? And you never see, like, sometimes, and like even with doing music, one thing you learn is that you can't always be an introvert. Like, I mean, there are a lot of, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people in music that are very introverted. But a lot of us have to learn to step out of that and communicate with people in order to get some of these things moving forward. Like, if I tried to stay the same way that I was when I started, I never would have got a lot of these opportunities because I never would have approached nobody. You know?
Right. False mouths don't get fed.
Exactly, and it's something you just learn. It's something that some people have like naturally, and some people you just gotta learn it. You know, it's like you can't never be afraid of asking, because the worst you can get is no. And if you get a no one place, sometimes you get set up with something better later on.
Yeah, because you know you always a prospect, man. You always constantly learning. Exactly. You ain't a master of something until, you know, the Chinese artsmen say, until you've done something 20, 30 years.
Exactly.
20, 30 years is a lifetime.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So until you've done something for 20 or 30 years, day in and day out, you haven't mastered your craft. And when you hear it putting in words like that, makes you strive to keep working.
Exactly.
Keep working, keep working, keep working.
Stay observant too, because sometimes you can learn a lot of things that I learned about my stage presence and everything. I learned from observing other people. Yeah. Like out of town artists and people who would come around, like just the way that they would approach certain things. You learn and develop as you go, and you kind of add that to your repertoire, what you do. And how is that, getting suggestions or seeing firsthand things to do or not to do, then getting suggestions from your peers, whether it be in Evansville or in the outside surrounding area? It's a big thing. It's an integral part, because if you're performing, if you're in front of people, you want people to pay money to come see you. You perform. Perform. Yeah. You have to take into account what they're thinking, what's in the mind of the audience, because the relationship between the audience and the artist is very intimate and is very important. And there are some artists that don't get that. Like, even big artists that don't get that. You never disrespect your audience, because you never want them to disrespect you. Like, they came out for a reason, you know. You give them a show regardless of whether it's 10, 25, 100 people. You always give them the same energy, you give them the same show, because those 5, 10 people is going to go tell somebody. Somebody might shoot a video. Somebody might have something to say. Or maybe that venue might want to bring you back again because you did as good as you did. You know, if you sleep on little things like that, you'll never get to the bigger opportunities, because they haven't seen what your potential is. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You holding that back waiting for the big break, and it never comes. So what you doing? You Small stones come from big rocks. Yes, indeed. So you got to keep chiseling, man. You got to keep chiseling. Absolutely. Don't get that small for no reason. Next question I really got to ask for you. What's your new visual you coming out? We seen the visual with I think Shayna or Shane. Oh, Shauna Brown. Yeah. Brown. Hey, shout out to her. She's cool. Like she's a worker for real. Just yeah, she did my people's video. Yeah. And yeah. And she one of those type when we met and talked about it. She was like, okay, let me know. It's like, okay, I listened to the song. I got these ideas. Tell me if this works with you. And she'll like writing down the lesson plan, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that I can try and get another one worked out with her too. Might be doing some videos to some older songs too. Yeah. I'm just been kind of debating on which one I want to do next, actually. You know. Well, which song you thinking about, man? There's one that's not out, and I've been working on it, and it's called Hills and Valleys. It's more of just a speaking about life type thing. Right. Because it was something that I had heard from somebody that they said life is like hills and valleys. It's like, and I thought about that as like, you have to be in the valley to climb up to the hill. The valley is usually your low spot where you feel like, this ain't working out, I got this issue, I got that issue. And you can either stay there or you can keep climbing. It's going to be hard, but once you get to that hill, you know, you finally realize what you're trying to do. And it's not saying that you won't fall back in, you know. That's just the ebb and flow of life. It's just learning to work with it as you go. Yeah, you got to always have good feeling.
you ain't got footing in life, you liable to slip.
Oh yeah,
if you ain't got good footing, you liable to fall.
Oh yeah,
it happens.
Absolutely.
Biggest question, not to move on to that too fast, because I really still want to get on that, man.
Okay.
What's the new album you got dropping, man? I
Man,
know you got a new album.
It's been one that
Come on, man. Give me a little. Give me you know. Yeah,
I always put out a project on my birthday, which is August 10th. So those are always in the works. But like one project that I've been really working on and just being a little bit too much of a perfectionist about, it's gonna be called the Aftercare LP. Like, cause I did the Addiction EP, and it's kind of like a sequel to that. And I guess, and a lot of it is because it's a concept thing of like viewing, like the first one was basically viewing music as an addiction and addressing it like that. This one is kind of like where you're going through the therapy, and I'm still like kind of piecing together how I want to present it. It might end up being like a 2-disc sort of thing, where it's shown from 2 different perspectives, you know.
So with you going with that route with it,
right?
What visuals do you see yourself really trying to do? Because you know, when you getting deep into, you know, concept like that, and deep into, you know, mental state, and you know doing both characters, that's almost the you know, not to be cliche, but the real Slim Shady or Eminem,
right,
back to back with Dr. Dre right there. Everybody remember that video. So it's one of those clashes,
man.
Like, you know,
man, I've had so many ideas in my head, and a lot of this year and last year is gonna. Last year was kind of about it, but this year is definitely gonna be about actualizing a lot of that stuff, because it's like, man, like stuff that I'll have in mind is maybe have scenes of just a bunch of people sitting in a room, like in a circle, kind of just like a therapy session, and basically the person who's narrating my part or saying what I'm saying is the person that gets called up to, you know, speak their mind and say what they feel. And that's kind of the way that it gets reflected, is getting all that energy out so that way you can build.
Yeah, that's a dope concept. I can see that concept. This year, I hopefully will start doing videography.
Hey, that's
people
what's
have been
up.
asking me. I do the little videos at the parties, and they be like, "Yo, it was nice."
Like, hey, you gotta start somewhere, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep cool because I ain't got time, but everybody telling me do it. But you know, with your craft and what you keep doing, the sky is the limit for you, man. It's just like the showmanship. Like, I really keep preaching this because I'm a live bander type of dude.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get up there, you know, whatever, cover charge 10, 15. Nobody cares. What's this live band that got up here? I already know I'm going to get these mozzarella sticks. If this live band ain't good, I'm trying to tell you now, I'm going to get 2 quarters and we leaving.
Right, straight up.
And just like you said, when people like yourself or people go up there with showmanship, it shows. That's why it's called showmanship.
Oh.
Then when it's not, and the quality is bad, or you get a couple bad things, like the DJ out of whack. I'm not a real big fan of like too many strobe lights, but I've seen lighting catastrophes. So it's one of those like
anything that can happen in the show probably will at least once.
Yeah,
easily.
And running with Brandon Gabriel, I had him on the show too, man. You know, great guy, got a real mind on him, man.
Oh yeah,
real thinker. And the showcases, man. Yeah, y'all running and doing all these showcases, man.
Yeah,
that's the move right there.
One thing about him is it always seems like he's got his mind on like the next thing the moment he's already there, and I'm just like, okay, you know, it's that business mind, you know. And like I said, some people that's natural, and some people it take time to cultivate. Like with me, like the mental and the spiritual part of doing music was always there. The business part was what had to get cultivated, like being able to negotiate, being able to talk to people, being able to do that. So it's dope to actually witness somebody who has that, you know.
Yeah, Brandon Gabriel finna be my manager. I'm finna link up with him.
He just got a mind for that. So I find that dope.
He wasn't down here more than 5 minutes with me and talked to me off camera about what I'm doing, and he was on it.
Right.
And you know, it's all falls in, but you know, brilliant minds always come together, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
2 mountains won't meet, but 2 men will. You know, Master P said that. Real OG smacker. Real OG smacker. Next question I got to ask for you, man.
All right.
Biggie or Tupac? Come on, man.
Alright, hey, that's cool though.
Man, Biggie or Tupac.
Everybody asked this.
Yeah.
I actually got a good way of answering this.
Alright,
I'm gonna say it like this.
Get it. We had a good interview so far.
Yeah.
You messed this one up.
I know.
Lost me.
Look. Just bear with me on this stuff.
Alright.
In some ways, I say both. And the reason I say it is because both of them are masters at two different things. Biggie, in terms of lyricism, all day. In terms of lyricism, rhyme structure, being able to adapt to different songs, and being able to adapt to the way that other people rap, all day. Storytelling, though, Pac. Pac was a storyteller. Pac had the emotion. He had the emotion. He had the way of saying stuff that make you feel like, man, let me go, get up and do something. Like, it was that motivation. He had the spirit of it,
Yeah.
He may not have been the most lyrical, but he never had to be. And then in the same thing with Biggie, Biggie can tell you a story, but his way of doing it isn't necessarily so much emotional as it is just methodical. He'll just piece it together.
10 crack commandments.
Yep, easily.
Definitely methodical. Rules to live by.
Yep.
I'm not going to deny you there, and I will agree with you. That's rapper's peanut butter and jelly, y'all. You gotta have one and you gotta have the other, because when you want perfect rap, that's what you gotta have, bro. A storyteller and a lyrical assassin.
I figured you might like that one.
You put those two.
See?
Give him a little snap. He's doing some real poetry up here.
Hey.
He's livin'. Listen. Nero Angelo up here dropping dimes once again.
Hey,
listen,
man. I'm trying.
Listen. Here's the next thing, man. So, how does your performance affect how you move? Like, when you do performances and stuff like that on the show, how does that affect, off the stage? How does that affect your movement off the stage? Because I know lots of people probably come up to you and, hey, man, that was a great show. Or now, like you said, at first you wasn't talking to people to get into venues, but now they seen you before, you seen them before, y'all got a little structure going back and forth, and now this man can't stay out venues. When is Bucky gonna kick him out?
Right.
That he's everywhere, man. Like, seriously, you always rocking the stage.
Man, it's a weird thing, because sometimes the introversion does kick back in. I ain't gonna lie. It's hard to keep the social battery up, to be real with you. But it's trained me to learn to work with it. And sometimes you get with me, I'll get too critical of myself. I'll be sitting there, if you ask me after I get off the performance, they'd be like, man, how you think you did? I'll sit there, used to be, I could sit there and be like, okay, I messed up here. I did this wrong. This could have been better. Going through the whole line. And sometimes you get off and somebody's like, yo, that was your dopest performance. You killed it. You thinking in the back of your head, what are you talking about? Man, I screwed up 5 times. But one thing I learned to do is just be like, thank you. I appreciate that. Because, honestly, maybe they saw something you did. Because you looking at them like, okay, we weren't looking at the same thing.
Yeah, that goes back to the old 80s.
We was not looking at the same thing, but at the same time, if they like it, and they dug it, and they feel like you really did something that touched them, you've done your job. Because that's your job.
Their sunglasses are a little different than yours.
Right.
That's all that is. It ain't weird. It's just where you thought you was heavy criticism and heavy critique, that might have been a highlight of his night. Man.
Right. And it's crazy what stuff people will tell you that will really just encourage you. And you be like, man,
especially when you're just trying to be normal guy Nick.
Right.
Hey, what's going on? Just trying to get a used game here at a game store.
Man, you ain't wrong. But
that's all I'm doing.
I mean, and it's important to just not get a big head about things. It's just you speak to people the same way you do everybody else.
Right.
Treat everybody the same way you treat everybody else. I know one dude who he's not a rap game, but he's a musician. This guy named Michael Dozier. This kid that man has been dope since birth. But the thing about him that I like is the fact that, one, he never lets it go to his head. 2, he's always the same person to everybody. And that's one thing that I respect. And that's even coming from somebody who's younger. You know what I mean? We can learn from the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. You're never too old to learn something new. You're never too young to learn something.
And like having that type of energy, but being aware of what you are and who you are is important.
Well, never get into any game not knowing one's true self.
Exactly.
If you get into any game not knowing who you are,
somebody gonna try and tell you who you are.
Nobody's gonna try to tell you who you are. They're gonna tell you who you are. Right. And then the day you're gonna wake up 3 or 4 years past that day and realize that's not who you are.
No.
Your whole life is predicated around it.
Yeah. And now you can't escape it. Like
you can, but the consequences are so severe and dire. I might as well keep this job.
Right. Nah, craziest thing. You know, one of the interesting things I heard one time was from Indiana Young and another dope artist. That man works. That man works.
Constant worker. He's got one of the hardest work ethics in Evansville.
Definitely. Like, man.
Like,
the only way you see this man is if you working. But like
bruh, work has to be involved.
Right.
He's at work. He's going to work, or this is work.
Right. I seen this man. It was some event going on. He had popped in. Oh, yeah, but that's all good. Look, he had popped in, and he was like, man, and he's like, yo, do you know how dope you are? And I'm like, I'm just being like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm alright. He's like, no. Do you really know how dope you are? It's like, you need to understand that. And that stuck with me, and I was like, this man wildin'. Because it's a party. Of course, everybody drunk or whatever. I'm like, and then I thought about it, I'm like, no, I get what he's saying. It's like, you can be as humble as you want to be, but never be so downtrodden on yourself that you don't realize that you're good at something. Like, you should know if you're good at something. Like, if you're a good singer, you can be as humble as you want to be, but know that you have a resume. Know that you can present that at any time, whip it out and be like, yeah, I can do this, this, and this. If you're good at a craft, you got to be the same way. Nobody ever gets through a job interview being like, oh, well, I ain't all that special.
Content.
I don't do that. No. You do gotta present yourself.
Can you lift 60 pounds for 8 continuous hours? Like, no, I can't even do that, bro.
Right. Now I won't say sit there in front. It's a middle ground. It's like, don't sit there in front and say, oh, I can do something. You can't do it because somebody's gonna test you one day. But don't backpedal so much to where you just another blade of grass and nobody ever approaches you because they're like, well, I mean, he cool, but I don't know what he can do.
Right.
That's always the biggest thing to me. So that was a good, just a little life lesson to learn. Be like, you know what? It's like, yeah, be aware of what you're good at. Be humble, but be aware of what you're good at.
Humility, man.
Exactly.
Always a big part of the rap game, especially when it comes to line, capping, however they want to call it.
Look, it's facts. Respect. Look, I will say this for every artist. Respect is everything. Respect is everything. I can't say it enough, because respect and also having a good reputation about you, because your reputation will follow you wherever you go. You know what I mean? Every time you out somewhere, every time that you may not even be performing, you show up to a show, you show up to an event, you represent yourself. And there's always somebody watching what you're doing. There's always somebody trying to peep out what you're doing. And there's always somebody trying to see if they can see chinks in your armor and be like, okay, so he been talking like this, but he really like this. Mm-hmm. You never know who's watching, either to search for inspiration or to look for a flaw. So being aware of that, especially us as artists, because we're constantly being watched, is just a good thing to have. And it not just because of the benefits, just because it's genuine. You know what I mean? That's one thing. You don't never want nobody to bring up your name and be like, oh, it's like, hey, what's up with Markie? Oh, they be like, well, I mean, he alright. And you gonna have people who say what they say. But if you have a good reputation and you prove yourself to be a decent person, you always gonna have the other person be like, man, quit playing. He's cool.
Yeah, then that's back to what you say, man. As long as you did what you did and you got your resume, hey man, I got a list of 20. If you only one complaining, it sounds like you just might have had a bad day.
Yep.
And it be like that sometimes.
Yeah, and it's the fact. Always let other people brag on you, because somebody's always gonna be quick to talk about something good. or something bad if they recognize it. It's a conversation starter, you know. So if you end up part of a conversation, you gotta make sure it's good.
Man, good gems, man. All we had today on MUHLARKEY with Markie, here with Nero Angelo, man. Nothing but jewels and gems. And like I said, like I keep saying, man, one of the hardest working showmanships out here, man. Y'all want to get y'all showmanship up? Y'all look at this dude and get some work in with him, man. He's moving with the heavy hitters and the feet twisters, man.
We trying.
Man, always blessing and positive to have you on, man.
Of course.
Thanks for coming on. Can't wait till the next time. Stay up, my guy.
You too, sir.